Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Yep, we're back. We started a couple of minutes ago with our first one in this mini-series, which is looking at the 4 game reserves, doing some valuation, working on those 4 game reserves. So first one up and running, so we're going to go to the second one. But before we go, please, boys and girls, like, subscribe, share the video. Watch it, let them run in the background. I need those hours. So yeah, please, let's make it happen. I really appreciate it. So just as a recap, maybe just like that. Remember, we've got the 4 reserves. Okay. Loskop Dam, Medala, Bushbuckridge, and Songemvelo. There they sit. Okay. So that's just Loskop Dam again. A little bit on Loskop Dam. There's Medala, Bushbuckridge, and Songemvelo. Okay. Let's just give you a bit of a picture of how Loskop Dam looks. You can see it's typical bushveld, shrubs, savanna type of layout, big dam, mountainous area, etc., etc. So, give you a little bit of an idea of the 4 reserves that we're working with. So, if we go back to our script where we left off. Remember, we left off with our 4 mapping our 4 reserves, creating looping function, and then generating a datetime image, median sentinel image for 2020 and a median sentinel image for 2024 to give us an idea of what the reserves look like, what are they populated with? Are there any meaningful differences or changes between 2020 and 2024, etc., etc.? So we've done all of that work. I said just a little bit of a, as I said, important part that I might put emphasis is I'm running Earth Engine and QGIS parallel with one another. Okay, so what I do with the one, I mirror at the other one, etc., etc. So I'm working with these 2 collectively, and as I said, I like to work in QGIS, so that I don't have to do in Earth Engine, I prefer to do in QGIS. So, Earth Engine, as I said, is to generate the information. QGIS is for analyzing the information. Okay, so let's. So we've got now, as I said, we've mapped each of the 4. Let's go back to our script. We've mapped each of the 4 reserves. Okay, and we've created a looping function so that we don't have to generate lines and lines of script. One script that, as I say in a lot of things, one ring to rule them all. One script to rule them all. So yeah, so it's a looping function. There's my areas, my spatial resolution, and there's my temporal resolution, and then I said we've generated a datetime image of each of those 4 reserves, a median for each of them, and we exported it. Okay, so we've done that. So now I want to look a little bit, start drilling into each of those locations by first looking at various images and statistics relating to the topography. Is it flat? Is it hilly? How hilly is it? What is the height, etc., etc., etc. We want to get a bit of an idea of not just what is the plants or what is the land use, land cover, or the surface area, but the topography of these areas, of these 4 reserves. Okay, because remember, what we want to do is we want to do evaluation. Now, obviously, there's certain characteristics that's more valuable than others. So we need to get an idea of the inherent characteristics of these 4 reserves. If it's just a mountain, if it's water, obviously water is much more valuable or much more attractive than a mountain, for example. If it's a forest, then you're going to have certain things versus other things if it's just sand, etc., etc. So we need, as I said, we need to get a detailed understanding of what is the inherent characteristics of each of these reserves, and also how they compare to one another. That will obviously influence the valuation, cost benefit, etc., etc. Okay. So where do we go from here? From here, what I wanted to do is to look, as I said, various topography characteristics of each of these reserves. How flat it is, how steep it is, how rough it is, the direction or the layout of it, etc., etc. Okay, so there's various data sets within Earth Engine that will help us with it. Now, some of these, unfortunately, are a little bit old, but nonetheless, it does give some indication. I would prefer if there's more up-to-date information about it, but we have to work with what we have to work. Okay, so first of all is a digital elevation model or digital surface model. That gives us the height of these reserves. We know that it's inland, so we know it's fairly high. It's a fairly not far away from the coast, but it's not close to the coast, not next to the coast. So we would assume it's fairly high above sea level. Just from the daytime images, it looks like it is fairly hilly, fairly mountainous, fairly rough. So that would make roads, for example, difficult traversing the area, etc., etc. Make it a little bit more easy, infrastructure a little bit more difficult, etc., etc. But on the other hand, it's good for diversity because it is not prone to man-made interventions and things like that. So what we want to do is to first look at the elevation of these, meaning how high above sea level are they, and what is the terrain? Is it a fairly flat? Is it a fairly varied terrain, etc., etc. Okay, so first off, then we're going to use the USGS data set. Let me go and have a look at it. So you get used to these data sets over time. You know which one to use for which application. So let's go data sets, and we're going to paste it in. So let's have a look what this data set is all about. It's a bit slow. I don't know why it's so slow today. Whether it's the internet or Earth Engine that's doing some work on it. I don't know why it's so slow. But while this is searching, let's go and have a look. So within this specific data set, it's a single image. It's not an image collection, so there's no time related to this. So this was a singular image, singular point in time that this image was created. And with this image, we're going to select a band called elevation. It's done. So it's a NASA SRTM digital elevation 30 meters. So if I click at it, you see it's an image. It's not an image collection. It's only one image. You can see that. You can look at all the details. If you look at the bands, it's elevation. In meters, 10 meters, 30 meters, it's elevation, meaning above sea level. So below sea level, way above sea level, that's a spatial resolution. Each pixel is 30 meters. It's in meters, yeah. And it's an image. It's not a collection. Okay, so it's an image. There it is. We're looking for elevation. And then with that elevation, we can also calculate the terrain. Okay, terrain products, meaning that's just a script to convert elevation into terrain. Okay, so terrain includes the slope, aspect, hillside, etc., etc. Okay, so that's a simple little piece of script, nothing to it. And I said there's the visualization parameters for the general, for the elevation, for the slope, for the hillside. We'll get to all of these things, what they mean now. And then I said the looping function. We don't want to run this script for all 4 reserves individually, because then it's clip, this one clip, 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 clip. So we create a loop. So it just will run through all of it. So as I said, it's the areas. Again, remember this is the looping function. That's the 4 areas. It will clip it for each of these areas. We'll clip the elevation, terrain, and the hillside. Remember, there they are. Elevation, there's elevation. There's the terrain, and then the hillside, we clip it, etc., and then we add it. Now, I'm not going to visualize it within Earth Engine, okay? Because we export it. Yeah, you can visualize it in Earth Engine. We've put it in Earth Engine to visualize it and stuff, but as I said, I'm not going to do that because we've exported it. We've created a looping function to export it, okay? So I'm going to rather look at it in QGIS. Now, in QGIS, as I said, we've got it. There they are. But I'm going to go into my presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at it. Remember, I'm just going to focus on Loskop Dam, for example. There is the true color image in 2020. We've done it. Just remember, Loskop Dam. If you want to look at this, is the Loskop Dam there. Okay, let's zoom into it. This is Loskop Dam. It's only one of the 4 reserves. Okay, so although we've done it for all 4, I'm just going to concentrate on this specific one. Okay, so let's go back there. So that's the daytime image, the true color Sentinel image for Loskop Dam in 2020. There's a medium image, and that is it for 2024. Okay, now we can subtract the 2. We can do all sorts of things to see where the differences are, but for now it is just to visualize these 2 images for the reserve. Okay, there they are. Okay, so here we go. So here's the first. I'm going to show you how to do this now. Rather than just to put the image there, we're creating a nice little map with coordinates, with north-south direction, with the sizes, etc., etc. So I'm going to show you how to do this now in this particular video. But anyway, so what we see here, you can see here, this is the Loskop Dam area. If we go back to our Earth Engine, there it is. There's my Loskop Dam area. Remember, we have a 2-color image of it, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the elevation. Okay, so this is the elevation, the digital elevation model for my one of the reserve, which is the Loskop Dam one. And you see here on the left-hand side, it's 1,000 meters up to 1,451 meters. So it's 1,000 meters above sea level. It's 1,400. So you can see the water area, the dam, and the rivers leading immediately into the dam are closer to 1,000 meters above sea level. And the blue, this particular area is 1,451 meters. So the lowest to the highest point is 450 meters, which is going one way around a athletics track. That's how I can remember it. So that's quite a lot. So that's the athletics track. Remember, you've got the 100 meters, and then you've got the 2 bends. The back strip is 100 meters, and the 2 bends are 100 meters. So the beginning to the end of around a athletics track is 400 meters, and then another half. So that's quite a lot. If you stack it, that's quite a sizable difference in height between the lowest point and the highest point. So it's not a flat area, and you can see this as well around it. Now we can play with the colors. Né? So if we go into, let's go into Loskop Dam, into QGIS. Let's quickly, there's our digital elevation model. Where is it now? Is it this one here? Nope. There we go. There it is. Okay. So we can play around with this. You see, there's 1,000 to 1,400. We can play around it. If you go right click, you go properties. So in this case, I've got this specific color scheme. Now you can play around with the color scheme. There's lots of color schemes that you can play around with. You can invert it. You can obviously also change the minimum value. So, for example, we can say, let's just put 1,400 there. Okay, classify. So, and we're going to say clip out. So clip out the range of values. Okay. So let's go apply. Why is it not doing that now? That's supposed to show all these other colors. Classify, sorry. Clip out of range. Why is it not doing this now? Cancel. Okay. So that's why doesn't it want to do this now? It's supposed to just show values from 1,400 and up. Let's quickly, I don't want to change the color scheme now. So let's quickly 1,001 clip out of range. Okay, let me just do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a don't want to change it now. So what? Hey, come on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a duplicate layer. There we go. So there's my duplicate layer. There it is. Okay. So let's play around with it. I'm going to go properties. Okay. So let's do single banner first. Okay. So let's go that. And minimum, let's make it 1,300. And then I'm going to say equal interview. Okay. Take it one tile back again. Okay, why is it doing that? And then I'm going to say clip out of, it's supposed to. Okay. Come on. It's supposed to clip those layers just so, but why is it not doing it? Equal interview, apply. There we go. There we go. So it only shows you these ones. It only shows you these ones, etc., etc. So there we go. Yeah. So now you can work with the image and just highlight those specific areas that meet specific criteria. So there you can identify those areas that's above 1,300. Okay. Took a bit of time, but we eventually got there. Okay, so yeah. So there's a lot of things we can play around. This is like a masking. If in Earth Engine, this is similar to a masking in Earth Engine. So let's just remove that layer. Don't want to have it there. That's why I say I prefer to work with in Earth Engine. Now, obviously, we can use the calculator to do all sorts of calculations as well. But for now, that gives us a nice picture of the elevation. Okay, so we've done the elevation of it, and that's included there. This is the hillside. Now the hillside face light areas face the sun, and dark areas is in the shadow. So this is important because now if we look, for example, at look at that area, for example, that's in the shade area. If you look there, it's in the shade area, and therefore it's much greener. Yeah, so that's nice to look at because we can get an idea that where vegetation is more likely to be versus bare soils, etc., etc. So that's the hillside that we did. This is a slope. How's the steepness of it? That is flat areas, and that is steep areas. You can see areas around the mountains, areas quite steep. These areas are quite flat. We look at the flat areas, they're the high areas above sea level, and also the areas that face most of the sun. Then we have what we call the roughness, high values, rougher terrain, lower values, and we have the aspect ratio, which gives you 0 to 30 is north facing, 90 is east facing, and 270 is west. So 270 is roughly this. So that area is west, So obviously the opposite would be east, which is the blue. You see west and east. Obviously north is this way here. North is this blue or high red. Let's just, okay. So that is some images relating to the topography of each of these reserves. As I said, they're also important, and we'll get to when we're going to put all these things together. You'll see where they all come from, because we're going to model these things. So we're going to generate models for economic value based on these characteristics. So we're going to bring these, call it variables, within our multiple regression to model various aspects of these reserves using these inherent characteristics. Now, what I wanted to show you is how exactly I'm doing this, because this is quite nice in QGIS. So I'm going to, yeah. So there's our code. There's our script. Okay. So there's also digital surface model that we've created, and again we loop over it, and then we export all of these ones. Okay. And there they are. Okay, so this is this script here. Okay, so this script here, the aim of this script, as I said, is to visualize all 4 reserves, and then to generate daytime images, 2 median daytime images, and then to generate various topography images of our 4 reserves, and to export them, and then to import them into QGIS and to visualize. So this is what this script is all about. Okay, when I said it's important because we want to model characteristics. We want to model our economic valuation based on slope, roughness, etc., etc., etc. So we're building up to our model that we're going to generate our economic value. Okay, because all of these inherent characteristics is obviously important from a valuation point of view. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's quickly go into my presentation and into QGIS. So obviously what I want to do is I want to put this into my presentation. Okay, so I've got a choice. I can just copy this. So I can go project. I can go import, export image to an image, and I say copy to clipboard. Okay, and that will look something like, let's just quickly put a slide there. Let's just quickly delete it. That would look something like this. Okay, but you can see there's no legend. There's nothing. Okay, it doesn't look very nice. It doesn't have the grids. It doesn't have the legends. It's got absolutely nothing. Now I have to do each one individually. So I don't want to do that. Okay, and QGIS has nice functions which will do everything for you. Put it nice into this format. Okay, so what do? We go back into QGIS. Cancel. Okay, so I've got it. So make sure only the item that you're interested in is selected. Okay, unselect everything else except I want this one. I want obviously the background. This. I want the background in the picture, and I want this image in the picture. So that's the only 2 things that I want in the picture. I want nothing else in the picture, and you'll see why this is important. Okay, so what is going to be important? I'm going to go now into this thing, print layout. Okay, I'm going to go into print layout. Now this is a very neat function in QGIS. I assume other GIS programs have similar functions. I don't know. I only work with QGIS. So I don't know ArcGIS and all of these sort of things, but I assume they have the same. But this is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So click on this little function here. Okay, new print layout, and give it a name. So whatever. Damn. I'm just going to do LKD. You can put the whole name. You can. This is absolutely up to you. Okay, and we're going to press OK. It's going to give you this little thing now. Now here is our canvas that we're going to work. Our layout window that we're going to work with. And here's all the functions that we can play around with. Okay, and there's also going to be a lot of things here that we're going to play around with. Okay, so think of it as a painter that has his paint, he's got his canvas, and he's got his picture that he wants to paint. He's got his picture here, he wants to paint it there, and these are all the tools that he's going to use to do the painting. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is to create, to bring in this image, into our canvas. Come on, make sure that it's properly laid out. Okay, not like this or like that. Make sure that it's efficiently, properly optimized layout. We go to our canvas again. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to bring that, as I said, that picture in. So what we're going to do is we're going to say add item. See there? Add item. And it's going to be a map. Okay, you can do all sorts of other things. 3D map, picture, but for now we're going to do in a map. And then basically you're just going to draw. This is where I want to put my map. And so what it's going to do is it's going to bring in the map. Just give it a, there it sits. Voila. Now this is now linked to whatever is happening on my QGIS. Okay, so my QGIS and my canvas is now 100% linked. Now I can make this bigger, make this smaller, I can move it around. There's lots of things that I can do. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do now is to, now you can play with it in whatever order you want to play with it. Okay, so where do we start? Now that we've added our image, as I said, this is now perfectly linked to our main QGIS. So whatever we do here will now filter through into our canvas. So now, this is now what I normally do. You don't have to follow. You can do your own process flow, but this is basically what I do. I normally add the north arrow button. I normally add this. Take this, you left click on it, and then you just basically left click, hold in left click, and you add it. Okay, so there's my north. You'll see if I click on it, everything that's associated with that opens on this specific screen. So here I can do all sorts of things now with it. I can change the colors and so I just normally leave it as is. If you want to be fancy, you're welcome to be fancy. But as I said, I normally just leave it as is. Okay, so that's the first thing I normally do after I've brought in my image. Second thing, I normally give it a distance scale bar. So I normally put my scale bar here at the bottom. Normally put it here at the bottom. Okay, so once I've done that, then I normally add the legend. And I normally add it like this. Now, you'll see what's going to happen is it's going to put all of the images that's in QGIS, all of these images will now be active. Okay, so but we only want to have the scale for this particular image, so we stick there only show items inside the linked map. So I just click that, and there we go. So that's why it's important that within it you only have the images that you want to present in your map activated. Because if we have other images activated, so for example, let's do this one. You'll see what's going to happen now. If I refresh, it's going to add this, and then it will not show. It will obviously show that as well. Okay, so that's why it's important that you only activate those images that you want to display in your map. So let's refresh it again. By the way, refresh every time you do something. You just refresh and it will update it. Now I can move this. I can put it wherever I want to put it. So that is the next step. Then I'm going to put the background color. Okay, so I click any place left. Most of it's all in left. You'll see there's a background, and normally I click on background. Okay, so there's my basic map or picture. Okay, now I can play around with it. There's a couple of things that I don't like. I don't like the white background here. Okay, so I'm going to change that background. Okay, so if I can scroll down here, you'll see there's background, and I untick, and there we go, done. So background, you can put it a separate color if you want to. I just don't want to keep it consistent. Don't want to make it too colorful. Takes away of the image itself. So you can make this a little bit bigger, looks a bit small, put it more in the corner, whatever. Okay, so now you see the other problem that I have is, you see there's not enough spacing. If you look at the image in Earth Engine, you can see there's lots of space. You can see the different colors. You can get an idea of the values, of each color. Whereas here, you can see, you don't see that. So if you look at the light blue, okay, there's light blue here, but this colors here, you can see it's difficult to get the scale of it. So I want to make this a bit bigger. So I left click on it, so I highlight it. You'll see now it comes up. So you'll see it goes spacing. Nope, not spacing, sorry, symbol. There we go, into symbol. You'll see symbol height. That is a symbol height. I normally just make it 45. And see, voila. Now it opens up that thing. Okay, so how do I change that? How do I make that? See, I go to spacing. Symbol. Get to spacing now, symbol. You see, so to play around with the legend, to make it bigger, left, move it, minimum sizes, maximum sizing, blah, 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 blah. You go into symbol and specifically symbol height. Okay, specifically symbol height. Now that looks much better. I said I normally use 54 millimeters, but you can, that's up to you again. Yeah, that's totally up to you. Okay, so that looks fine to me. Move it a little bit more up. So it's not so at the bottom. There we go. Now I'm happy with this. Okay. So what I next want to do is I want to put grids in here. I want to put grids in here with my reference system. Okay, so I left click on the map, and it will give me all sorts of things related to the map. Now the main properties, the scale, the map, the CSR, I leave as is. Don't change anything. Okay, I'm happy with it is as it is. Okay, nothing to it. Well, what you can do, you can change the size of this image inside the map by using the scale here. Okay, so for example, let's quickly I just want to copy that number. Okay, so let's take that one away. Just give it 5 seconds, it will render. You see that. So let's take the one back there. And there we go. So to change this, to maximize the space, to make sure that, you know, it is optimized. So we can make that maybe an 8. Let's see how that looks. I'll make it a 9. To make sure that we don't waste, that's going smaller now. Let's make it 5. Here we go. I can make it to play around with it. It's just to make this the image bigger so that you don't waste space. So there's not a lot of open areas here that you could have used, just to make sure that the map is optimized. You play around with that scale there. Okay, so let's leave it as it is. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to build in grids. Okay, now that's up to you. That you can do. Let's do upper, lower. You can play around with these things. You see there's grids. Okay, we're going to go into grids. If we do frame, don't worry about the frame. That just gives you that nice thing. What I want to do is grids. Okay, now this is where it becomes a little bit more tricky, but also exciting. So once we've got grids, we're going to click on the plus button. Okay, because we're going to add a grid now. Then it gives you grid there. Then we highlight it. We're going to say modify the grid. Now it goes up. Okay. Now the first thing that we want to do is to bring in the grids itself, and this is where we're going to use the X and the Y interval. Now here it's trial and error. So for example, if we make that, let's make it a 5 there. Okay, so what's going to happen? Nothing is going to happen. So it means that grid doesn't work. So let's make it a 5 in front. Let's see what happens now. Nothing happens there as well. Let's make it a 50. See what happens now? Nothing. Let's make it another 5. See what happens? Nothing. Add another 5. Still nothing. Another 5. Still nothing. Another 5. Still nothing. Okay, so that means going this way is not helping at all. So we're going to go the other way. So we add that one. So let's make a 5 there. There we go. You see, now there's some grids. Now we know which side. So there's 1, 2, 3. You can keep it at that. Let's make it 9. Yeah, that's maybe, let's keep it 5. Let's keep it 5. This comes with, and obviously you'll repeat that at the Y as well. You repeat it at the Y as well. That gives me my grids. Okay, so now I've got my grids. Now I can bring my coordinates in. And what we're going to do here, so this is just play around with it. Go left, go right, until you have it. Okay, each map is very, very different. So this really is become, leave that as is. This is what you play around. As I said, sometimes it's going higher, gives you the grids. Sometimes it's going lower, giving you the grids. This comes with time as you play around with it. Okay, so now offsets, these things you can leave out. Now we're going to add in the frames. Okay, so at the moment it says non-frame. I'm going to go with Zebra Nautical. You can play around with it. There we go. So now I've created my Nautical Mall Zebra stripes, call it that way. Frame size, blah, 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 blah. Leave it. Now I want to bring in my coordinates. Well, as I said, if you don't want the left side, you just want it, you don't want the right side, I want all of it, then draw my coordinates. So you see, now the coordinates coming in. Now I don't want the coordinates on the right hand side because it's duplicating. So I'm going to go right hand side where it says all. I'm going to say disable. I don't want it at the bottom because it's already at the top. So I go disabled. In the format, I'm going to go with suffix. You'll see it's with 22.1.5, and you can change the decimals, etc. And there you have it. There's a nice map or picture of your image with all the paraphernalia, all the nice things, etc., etc. And then I'm going to save it. So we're going to paste that. And I'm going to go into my, and I'm just going to save it. Save it as underscore elevation. And save it. Save it. And obviously now you can go into your folder, which is weighted space is saving. I'm going to go into my folder. I'm going to go into my phone. Go into my folder. And there it sits. As a JPEG. Double click on it. And there it is. Look at beautiful. Right click. Copy. There you go. Now doesn't this look much better than just copying the actual image itself? This looks much more professional. And that's how I've created this. Now the good thing is, so let's quickly close it. The good thing is now it's there now. Okay, so let's quickly go and say I want to now do the slope or the hillside. So I unselect the elevation. I select the hillside. You see there it is. Now I go into my canvas and I just press. There we go. I press refresh. There we go. Now I can save it again. And. So as long as you keep this open, whatever you do in QGIS will run straight into your canvas, and from the canvas If you're still happy with everything, you just save it. And then from there, you can obviously copy and paste it into your presentation, into your report, wherever you want. And this looks much more professional than just copying and pasting the actual image straight from QGIS. Now, the nice thing is if I close this, okay, so I finish working, I knock off for the night, I close everything, I'm done with it. Next day, I start my QGIS and I want to continue. The nice thing is I don't have to do everything over. I don't have to go to a new printout. I just go into Show Layout Manager, to this one here, and I find my canvas. There's my canvas. You can see there it is. And you double left click on it and it will open it and it will still be linked. So I can continue. I do the slope. There's my slope. Just close it. Go into my canvas. I press refresh. And there it is. Save time, save effort. There you go. Beautiful. So this is a neat little part of QGIS that I don't think a lot of people uses, but are very, very useful. So you can play around with all the other items that you want to play around with. You can bring in pictures if you want to bring in pictures. There's an arrow that you can bring in if you want to do that. So there's arrows that you can bring in. Let's delete that. There's a whole lot of things, attribute tables, etc., etc. Just remember everything. If you left click on an item within your canvas, it appears here. But also if you look the items, all of your items, you've got a legend, a scroll bar, you've got a north arrow, and you have your map. So if you click on each of them, you go to item properties, and it gives you all the properties related to each of these items within your canvas. But as I said, the canvas is directly linked to your QGIS, which is beautiful. And I said, it stays there. It's available at any time you want to use it. And I said, you just keep on refreshing. There it is. You just keep on refreshing. And you export, refresh, export. Other export options are there, but those are the main ones. Items, it's the same as the things that you can have here, so you don't have to worry too much about those things. And that's it. And that is how we've created these beautiful pictures or maps of our region of interest. And I said this looks much more professional because it's got the coordinates included, it's got the scale included, it's got the north-south, it's got the scalar, got all of these things included. In this case, I've only added 3 grids. Maybe 3 is not as efficient as maybe the ones that I should have, but yeah, let's leave it as it. So if I want to put it on presentation format, you see this is how it looks. That looks nice, it looks professional, neat, and it's big enough. Yeah, so there we go. So there's a number of topography images of the specific reserve. And I've done it for the others as well. So there's Madala, for example. Where's Madala? There's Madala. This is just a picture of Madala. That is its daytime in median in 2020, median in 2024. There's it's also about 450 meters elevation difference. See, that's the lowest. This is the highest area. There is this hillside, slope, etc., etc. Let's look at Bushbuck Ridge. There's Bushbuck Ridge, lowest, highest, hillside. Let's see, it's also about 500. And then Songavelo. That's Songavelo. Where do we have it? Come on. Songavelo. This is the picture of that reserve. There is it. You can see there's quite a 1,200 meter difference between the lowest and the highest, the hillside, slope, etc., etc. Is that these are all going to be characteristics that we're going to include in our model, and that's why we've used it. Because obviously, more sun, the vegetation gets, the better photosynthesis, the more carbon, etc., etc. So there's a reason why we're doing all these things. Okay, so let's quickly do this. Just for interest's sake, I'm standing at 174 slides at the moment, and all generated from Earth Engine. All generated from Earth Engine. We'll go for all of them. Okay, so that is the specific piece of script. So as I said, I generate all my images within Earth Engine. And then from Earth Engine, I export it into QGIS. And then in QGIS, I do most of my analysis, the nice things, call it that way. Do the nice things and then create these beautiful pictures, these beautiful maps. And those are then what I use in my presentation. It just makes it, as I said, much more professional. Going back to QGIS. Yeah, so as I said, the nice thing about this script is the looping function. And you can add more and more and more regions of interest. You just add them in your variables, and it will do that. So this is really a nice piece of script for the image collection and for the images. So in this specific scope, we focused on the daytime images, and we focus on the topography images for all 4 of my scripts, or for all 4 of my reserves. Just for interest's sake, I'll do that. Hillside Loskop Dam. That's how the hillside in Loskop Dam looks like. The DM in Loskop Dam. See, that's why I don't want to, you see, now to spend all the time and effort to fix up the color scheme and the visualization parameters and where I'm anyway going to export it and have to redo it. That's why I don't spend too much time trying to make these things looking nice and good in Earth Engine, because as I said, I'm going to export them anyway to QGIS, and in QGIS I'll do all those fancy things. It's much way easier also in QGIS to do that. So as I said, don't actually display my images in Earth Engine. Purpose is just to export them, to generate them, to export them. Yeah, that's as far as I use Earth Engine. Now you can use it to generate beautiful images. I don't dispute it. I don't say don't have to do it. But as I said, I don't, because it's a bit of a, for me, it's wasting a bit of time, because I do everything in QGIS. What was there else on this piece of code? I think that's about it. We're going to start with some of the other work in the next video. So stay tuned, because there's lots to come. As I said, there's 174 slides to go through. Now, divide by 4, obviously. So we're not going to go to all 4 regions. We're just going to go to each of these regions. To one region, Loskop Dam, for example, and go for all its slides and information that we've done. Okay, so I think let's, without repeating myself, let's stop there. Yeah. Let's cool off. Let's take a break, and we'll start again with our next part. So stay tuned, and again, please remember to like, subscribe, share, and let these videos run. I need those hours. So yeah, your support would be highly appreciated. So with that said, I'll see you on the other side.